Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Irongeek Cast number 182, Duck. I just decided to choose that name because I didn't have a better name. That's my biggest contribution to the cast is usually the weekly name, which I'm somewhat lackluster. We are joined today by Trez and Logan. How you dudes doing tonight?
Oh, I'm good. Just chilling, eating some homemade soup and downing some cheese in a can. You know, one healthy thing, one unhealthy thing. That's what you got to do.
Yeah, you can have the cheese in the can with diabetes, so the cheese may not be bad.
Yeah, because it has like hardly any carbs, and it's great.
I'm drinking a drink that's got more chemicals than a chem lab, so.
Yeah.
I'm drinking, I think, some kind of a fruit punch with an extra additive, which we won't talk about because some of my friends will give me shit.
Some anti-vax people were posting something a while back about how, like, these are the list of chemicals. You wouldn't give this to your kid. And then somebody replied back. He's like, this vaccine has these chemicals in it. Do you think it's safe? And he listed out the actual chemical ingredients of an apple. And the person was like, no, I'd never give that to my kid. And he replies like, that's an apple.
I wouldn't give my kid an apple, depending on where it came from. That's because the pesticides that are still on it, that when they ended up putting on the carabinol wax to preserve the apple, they didn't actually take off the pesticides, so the pesticides are actually under the wax, trapped in it. So when you rinse off the apple, it's still there, and when you eat it, you've ingested it. That's how a lot of people end up getting sick from foreign foods.
Wow.
Yeah, because the wax is food safe and totally safe to consume. But unfortunately, the pesticides are not. It doesn't take a lot to make you really, really sick, especially if you ingest enough of it in a short period of time.
Yeah.
All right, I'm back. Sorry, guys. My connection's a little bit unstable.
Just like you.
Don't make it so obvious.
So I got myself a Venus flytrap, right? Because I only from my apples. You like my flag?
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. You said Venus. I thought you said penis flytrap.
I got a penis flytrap too, but that's different. So this little sucker right here, right? This is a Venus flytrap, and he's dying. He's not doing too well. I named him Fred.
Go to your Home Depot and pick up a the best thing for you would probably just be fish waste. Go pick up fish waste, dilute it with treated water. You can get like a zero water for like $20 or whatever, and then just mix that together, and then just feed him some of that. It'll increase his nitrogen levels, and he should be fine.
Oh, interesting. Fish waste?
Yeah, we used to use it as part of a farming technique. It's why we have some of the best farms in the world and in recorded history. It's why you can go out into fields that were planted like 1,000 years ago and they're still growing crop.
Cool.
Yeah, and fish waste is one of the things we would use. We would take fish, mix it in with peat moss, and then we would typically soak it for a while, and then we'd make a peat moss brick with it, and then we'd bury that as a nitrogen booster. And
I'm not sure that would work with the Venus flytrap because they need very poor nutrient soil. If you give them soil that's too good, they just die.
Well, yeah, that's because of your 5-1-1 ratio. Yeah, it'll typically becoming a 3-4-4, so it becomes more vegetable based than nitrogen based. Gotcha. That's why if you look at it right now, it's a really, really light green. That light green is because it doesn't have enough nitrogen.
Yeah, some of its heads turned black. I had to take the heads off. Not a lot of fun. I thought this thing was going to be eating all my bugs. All it's doing is dying on me. All righty. Yeah. So today in the show notes, we've got a few announcements. And by a few, I mean one. So Houston Sec is going to be doing a virtual con come October. The conference dates will be Friday, October 23rd. It's going to be an air-gapped edition because it's going to be online. And the new virtual format is going to have some elements of great sessions, a fun twist to the attractions in the village, and virtual networking opportunities with all your cybersecurity friends and colleagues. Stay tuned for more conferences information and how to get tickets for this year. Not to us, but to somebody else who posted this in our channel. So yeah, that's happening. That's a thing. And they're honoring tickets if you bought them for the in-person con, which is, I guess, good. All the cons are virtual.
Yeah, I just have a hard time getting enthused about a virtual conference.
It's not the same. If I wanted a virtual conference, I just watch Irongeek's channel.
I need to smell the fellow hackers.
You don't want to smell the fellow hackers. I've smelled the fellow hackers. It's not a good smell. Guy sitting in his room for 2 weeks trying to get some code to work and goes out to a conference.
I swear, like, it was so bad at Tampa one time, I literally told them in my talk to bathe. Like, it was so bad. Oh my god, I swear, I smelt one dude in the fucking hallway, and I damn near lost my shit. But I waited until my talk, and then, like, I could still smell it. I just couldn't fucking do it anymore.
Wait,
was it a group called Smelly Hackers?
Yeah.
Was it B-Sides Tampa?
I don't. Yeah.
Okay, that's the only conference I've been to this year.
Yeah. It's a great conference.
Yeah,
it's them. I actually got my coin from B-Sides Cleveland right here. I found it under my bed. They're a great conference. San Antonio is outstanding. Love those guys down there. Super great. Very
San Antonio I've been to one time.
Yeah.
Someone wants to cancel me from it because he's a freak, but
yeah, I feel very safe when I go to San Antonio. It's just a good place.
I have someone who doesn't feel safe because I'm there just because I disagreed with them on Twitter.
I'm assuming it's some female or something,
Or
some soy boy.
No comment. Today's Iron Geek cast brought to you by Easy Cheese.
Yeah, I wouldn't sweat it. There are people out there that don't feel safe by themselves, so it's more of their confidence issue. I wouldn't worry about it.
It's fine. So I see our Iron Geek cast members seem to be dropping like flies. We lost Israel. We lost Caprico. Where is everybody? They don't love us no more?
I can put out a general call for people back on Twitter.
They're just busy. It's a really big shit show right now out there. I can answer a lot of those questions. There's actually a lot of people that are unemployed right now. They're looking for work. By the way, for those watching this, if you need work, please feel free to reach out to me. You can do it in private. I'm more than happy to help you find the job. I've got about 300 in the bank right now that are just sitting there waiting. I had another 4 more show up today. So if people need work, please let me know. No cost, no referral fees, none of that jazz. Just straight to a recruiter or the hiring manager. And
maybe a hand job under the table. We don't know.
Buy me a beer. I'll be okay with a beer. Let's not get weird.
Wait, a regular beer or like one of those IPAs, you know?
Belgium's. Anything other than it's not real beer.
I've always been kind of a fan of stouts and IPAs.
I don't like the bitterness, and I just feel like there's too many IPAs out there, or people that just wanted to set up some kind of like brewery, and then like they just never turn out well. And I'm just not up for the fake beers. Honestly, they're just not made well.
Fake beers and fake people. That's
Yeah, I'm more tired of the fake ass people. That's my biggest issue. There's so many people out there that they like. Right now is a perfect example. There's so many people out there that need a job right now, and like, where are all these people that said that they were your friend? That's my only question for anybody out there watching. Is like, if they were really your friend, if they were really a leader in the community, you wouldn't have issues finding out who's hiring. I wouldn't be the one building your job board for you. Like,
so get this, a coworker of mine. He was an intern, and then we hired him as a junior analyst. He doesn't make a lot of money with us, so he's looking for another job. And he finds an opportunity at this place that makes vitamins, and they sent him a formal letter that they want to hire him. He puts in his notice at our job, and then they run the background check, and it turns out like 7 years ago he had some misdemeanor. And they dropped him, but that they rescinded their offer, right? And now he's already put in his notice at our job. He's lucky we're cool, and we're just gonna be like, fine, you know.
Yeah, he rescinded his 2 weeks. Yeah,
Bill, I
I
mean,
see
that's
that happen a lot.
You don't
Yeah.
put in an offer letter till you already ran the background check, you know?
Yeah, that's what I always tell people. You wait until the new job has formally accepted your offer and you've gotten your start date and you've started, and then you turn in your 2 weeks. And so,
Yeah. It's craziness.
yeah, at least if you're working remote. Like if you're not working remote, then it's whatever. But yeah,
Working
that
remote.
sucks. Yeah, that's why I also recommend to people you get a full-time job and then you get a part-time job if you need more money. You get some kind of part-time work on the side because there's always tons of that out there. Like for part of I've got like probably 30 or 40 projects that I've banked over time, just waiting for a shit show to show up like this. And so I picked up like 30 contractors or whatever, and it's not a ton of money for each person, but it's good enough money to buy food and stuff, which was the purpose for me. And it's helping me build stuff like these job boards. They're helping me to finish these projects up and get them pushed out. And so, I mean, it doesn't hurt to have a part-time job, and it's a whole lot better than trying to deal with 2 full-times.
I know people who were working remote and then they took another job when they were working remote now, and they're doing 2 jobs remote at the same time and pulling in 2 full-time salaries. And
Yeah, you could work 3 full-time jobs if you wanted to. The time slots allow for it.
Nothing around on Reddit. You just go and do the other job, you know?
Yeah. Well, that's part of the issue that with people these days. They don't want to put in the work, and they just want to get that one fat job paying like $600K, and then they just call it square. But the issue is statistically speaking, that's less than 0.1% of the jobs that are out on the market. And so
Right.
I see way too many people out there, especially quote unquote leaders in the community, putting out like all these ridiculous numbers. And I looked at one and I was like, she'd put out like, yeah, you should be making at least 130, 140K. And I'm like, it's a person with 3 years of experience, barely. Like, they're lucky to have a job with that little experience, especially given they don't have any systems background and they're trying to work in security. Like,
Do they meet the check boxes though?
No.
Do they meet the check boxes?
God, no. No, and that's the other issue I keep seeing is all these people chasing check boxes instead of actual capabilities. Employers, like from an employer perspective, from my perspective, we're not looking for a laundry list of paper sheets. We don't give 2 shits about that. Push comes to shove, I hand you one of these keyboards, what the fuck can you deliver? Like, because that's what I'm selling. Your skill sets are what I'm selling. And if you can't deliver, I'm going to find somebody who can. Because that's what I have to deliver, is what we promised. Well, technically, whatever sales screws us over and promises. And then we have to deliver that, which happens way more often than not. Oh, yeah, this riding bull can turn into a flying unicorn? Absolutely. Yeah.
I miss the old days when you could just sell vaporware and then make it later on.
Isn't that every security appliance?
So I actually came across this security appliance being sold on Facebook ads, right? It's called Firewall, and it has one Ethernet jack, and it's supposed to be a firewall. So I'm like, how the fuck does that work with one Ethernet jack? So I messaged them. I'm like, how? And they're like, well, we use ARP spoofing. I'm like, you're using ARP spoofing on a firewall appliance? That makes no sense. I mean, it works. I guess it works, but it's like
router on a stick. It's an allow all firewall. You have one coming in and one coming out. There's your redundancy. So funny.
All right. So in our show notes this week, we've got a whole bunch of crap. Not as much crap as last week, because last week I was bored. I had a couple of hours, so I just put everything, the kitchen sink in there. Today we only go up to letter Q, so we don't have like ZZ and all that crap. So starting off, we got a neat little article about how up until recently you could spoof Gmail accounts pretty convincing enough that you would actually you would fool other Gmail users and it wouldn't go to their spam box. So the article itself kind of sucks. It's not really written for a technical audience, but the bug essentially would let you spoof emails is what it was. And the researcher that discovered it was named Alison Hussein, and she involved a combination of back-end G Suite exploits that let hackers manipulate email routing data to masquerade as any Gmail user. It was unpatched until very, very recently. Now it's patched. But they haven't. Essentially, the way they patched it blocks her specific way of doing it, but there are other ways you can still do it that are in the process of being patched. And then the article, for some reason, goes on to talk about how you should use two-factor. Now, I don't disagree. You should use two-factor, but that's not going to prevent you from somebody spoofing an email to you. So it's kind of one of my little why is that in there things. They need to fill a certain amount of words before they can finish the article. It has to be at least 1,500 words. Adrian, are you sharing my screen?
Oh, hold on a second. I can do that. Now we got it.
Cool. Now I'm going to bring up the porn. Anyway, so top exploits used by ransomware gangs are VPN.
Midgets?
What?
Does it involve midgets?
No, trannies, man. You're midgets, I'm trannies. You got to get our porn preferences right.
Okay.
All right, so top exploits used by ransomware gangs are VPN bugs, but RDP still reigns supreme. So if you monitor a security appliance on the daily, like maybe some Alien Vault type stuff, you're going to see if you've got like a VPN port exposed, like maybe port 1194, you're going to see it getting hit all the time. And if you're seeing port 3389 exposed to the internet and that getting hit, you're in trouble already, because if you've got port 3389 RDP exposed to the internet, your company's definitely doing something wrong. And it's going to hurt eventually. So this article goes on to talk about how some ransomware groups are now targeting VPNs. Of course, the number one thing they're going to be targeting is still going to be RDP, because you can just hammer away at it and send passwords at it over and over again until you get in. But when it comes to VPN, it's a little bit different. There are some vulnerabilities in different VPN clients and infrastructure type stuff where there are exploits that will let them just get in if you're running like an outdated server end VPN component, and that's no good. So they're saying VPN appliances are kind of like the new RDP now. Since summer of 2019, there have been multiple vulnerabilities for different appliances, from Pulse Secure to Palo Alto VPN to Fortinet to Citrix. A lot of Citrix stuff, especially on their ADC stuff. And SecureWorks and F5. So with all these different vulnerabilities out there for older versions and companies not updating to the latest version, there's a lot of systems you can get into with not a lot of effort. So this article pretty much talks about that. It talks about how gangs like Soda no Kibi and Ragnarok and Doppelpaymer, Maze, Clop. I can't believe they named their group Clop. And Nephilim have been seen using the Citrix vulnerabilities that were out there with CVE 2019-19781 as their point of entry into networks. The article goes on and actually has a nice little ransomware attack using Pulse VPN infographic there. And yeah, so if they can get in with RDP, they're going to get in with RDP, but they're also looking for insecure VPN stuff that hasn't been patched. So if you are, go ahead.
The big piece right now is APIs.
Yeah, I got an article in on that.
Yeah. By the way, I just want to point out that documentation is beyond fabulous. Whoever created those diagrams is just fucking epic.
Which ones?
The ones here? That right there, yeah, with the image above. Somebody made that diagram, and that's fan-fucking-tastic.
Yeah, they obviously put a lot of work into that.
Yeah, I also it reminds me for APIs of Swagger. Like, I wish more people used Swagger when they were doing stuff with APIs, because it looks so good.
Yeah, good stuff. So since you mentioned APIs, we're going to just skip ahead, and we'll come back to number B. Number B? Letter B. Numbers, letters, whatever. So APIs make your systems easier to run, and they also make it easier for hackers. API usage has exploded. Cyber criminals are increasingly taking advantage of API flaws to commit fraud and steal data. APIs make everything a bit easier, from data sharing to system connectivity to delivering critical features and functionality. And it also makes it easier for the bad actors and the bots to carry out attacks. Some API vulnerabilities this article is going to explore is going to be talking about ones that are a little bit too easy to discover. So as a hacker, the first thing I do is identify as many APIs as possible, according to the article. And I start by using the target application as expected. Web apps get opened in a browser, mobile apps get downloaded and installed, and all the while I monitor the communication and intercept with a proxy. So an intercept proxy might be Burp Suite or Zap. So you're going to be able to essentially replay data and modify it, and it makes your life a lot easier if somebody's taking apart like a web app, or even just looking for something as simple as SQL injection. Having a proxy makes it easier. Well, this kind of proxy, like an interceptor. So essentially, he finds out what he can about the API by reverse engineering it, by looking at the calls it's making. Sometimes it's a little bit too verbose, where these attacks are easy because error messages are too wordy for their own good, and that allows them to make the requests easier. APIs designed for high-speed transactions with low load enable attackers to use high-performance systems to figure out valid accounts and then attempt to log in and change the password for their benefit. Too many API parameters, too much data, too little design for security. All of these things are mentioned in the article if you want to read it in full. I'm sure also Logan has some things to add about why APIs are a good target for hackers.
Yeah, there's a ton of things you can do with an API. It actually reminds me of the last gig I got. I actually got the job by breaking into their network and handing them their customer list within 3 minutes. Yeah, I started the next Monday. I did the test on a Friday. I started Monday. But just a quick side note: if you're worried about API security, if you're using cloud services, I recommend personally, if you're on GCP, Apogee definitely. Open source alternatives are Kraken, Tyke, and Kong are all three really good ones. And then obviously you can combo that with pretty much anything else that you want to leverage, WAFs or whatever. I personally like to leverage mine with HA proxy instead, because I can get a lot nastier with that. My latest shenanigan is I'm actually building a game in what is it? RPG Maker, and then I'm exporting that as an HTML5 file. And then if you end up scanning my networks for the new network I'm building out, it'll actually load you into the game, and it forces you to beat the game before you can go back to network traffic. You can do some pretty gnarly stuff with auto reroute rules. It's pretty fun. But yeah, a good security, Kong, Tyke, and Kraken are three good ones. And then again, like I said, if you want to go the paid route, you can do Apogee. But Apogee gets expensive after a while.
Excellent. Righty. Next article we've got should be C, but it's messed up over here. It should be D. It's not labeled. I screwed that up somehow. All right. We're going to be talking about Chinese smartphone maker selling devices that are preloaded with malware. You buy a new smartphone, you expect it to have a little bit of bloatware, right? If you're into the modding scene for phones, with like going to XDA forums and screwing around with ROMs and images, you know about all the crap that the people who make the phones put in there that you want to get out. But this is not that crap. This is not regular bloatware. This is actual malware that's pre-installed on the phones and can't be removed. It signs people up for subscription services without their permissions. that happened on phones made by Chinese manufacturer Transsion. All right. This researcher from Upstream's anti-fraud platform SecureD conducted an investigation on the origin of a bunch of suspicious transactions on the platform, and they found an unusually large number of transactions originating from Transsion Techno W3 handsets in Ethiopia, Cameroon, Egypt, Ghana, South Africa, and all of them were fraudulent mobile transactions. He put together a list with some antivirus apps you can use for Android, but yeah. There's also some removal software linked in the article. But this is interesting. So phones coming pre-installed with malware is kind of a new thing. Now, like I said, they've always been installed with bloatware, but never before applications that would actually go out and subscribe you to other things that cost you money every month. You know, that's a new thing with phones. Tradia is a popular malware that acts as a software backdoor and a malicious downloader. And the malware uses root privileges to execute arbitrary code and receive instructions from the C2 server. That's pre-installed on some of these phones. You know, it's how this software got there in the first place is anybody's guess. You know, it could be the manufacturer themselves are malicious, or maybe they were hacked and the hacker put some code there that got migrated to all the phones. We're never going to know. But we know that it happens. And knowing is half the battle. Right, Logan?
Yeah. So my thing with cell phones has always been, and my recommendation anyways, is I always tell people to go buy your phones from Canada. And I know that sounds weird, or at least if you're in the U.S., buy your phone from Canada. And part of the reason why I make that recommendation is when you buy your phone from Canada, Canadian law through the CRTC is their wireless regulator. They require that the phone ship unlocked, and so it allows you to do a lot of modifications to your phone because of that. And so, at least in my personal experience, which has been relatively limited, I don't do that much on mobile devices. But an unlocked phone allows you a lot more. What's a good word for it? Promiscuity, I guess, is word
for it.
Yeah, you can do a lot more shenanigans with a mobile device that's unlocked versus like my Samsung, which is pretty much it's a Samsung. You're gonna do what Samsung allows you to do with the phone, and Google makes it even worse. So
yeah, the Google phones are tough nowadays to get into. I found a rooting guide for it on XDA forums, and you had to unlock it, obviously. And as soon as you unlock it, everything breaks, and the thing does not work.
The only thing I want rooted for is to be able to Wi-Fi tether without paying anything. And quite frankly, it's not worth it for the pain in the ass of doing updates and shit.
Yeah, and that's why I recommend phones from Canada, because you don't have to worry about any of that. They ship unlocked. And when you transfer them here to the States, they can't relock them.
Yes, but if you get some from Canada, don't you have to worry about flapping-headed, maple-blooded icebacks?
No, they're Canadians. They're actually pretty chill when it comes to privacy. That's one of the things I do like about Canada.
I just don't trust the moose people.
Adrian, if you want to tether off a phone and it's not rooted, this program, PDANet, works pretty well. It sets up a little tunnel between your two devices. So as far as the phone's concerned, all the traffic is...
I remember that from many years ago, but I thought you needed root for PDANet to work.
No, you don't need root for it. They have a new name for it, but the key for it is still called PDANet. So if you want to pay I think $6 to unlock the full app where you're no longer limited on the amount of data you can transfer, then it's called PDANet key. And it still works. I mean, I've used it before I switched carriers. Now I've got a limited plan. But like, I would definitely tether through my phone when I didn't have internet at home, and I needed to go on the Irongeek cast on Wednesday nights, and I needed a way of getting on there, so I used tethering through my phone then.
Yeah, the only issue with that is then you have to hand your traffic off to somebody, and I mean, do you really trust a third party?
Well, the server's on your phone, and you're the client.
Yeah.
It's still on your computer.
But the traffic still has to be tunneled through something.
You're tunneling it to your phone. Your phone acts as the VPN
Oh,
server.
so it is the node?
Other
Okay.
devices fine. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Basically, it turns your phone
Wait.
into a VPN server.
So did you say Onion?
What?
You say Onion, so it's using the Onion network?
No.
Oh, okay.
I said it uses your phone as the server, and the client is the other device that's connecting through the phone, and it's just like a VPN connection between the two of them. So
Okay, so it goes from logical app to logical server to internet.
yeah, we're not going to
Okay.
talk about tunneling stuff through Onion Network with 25% of their nodes being compromised.
Yeah.
And that bit,
I thought they
Bitcoin.
updated it. I thought they updated that to where it's now a third. They think it's now up to a third of all nodes are compromised.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, not even assuming the feds, because the feds have an ungodly amount of them compromised or own them outright. That's a different story, though.
Correct.
Yeah, I knew a gentleman, not to say who he is, who set up an exit node for Tor for a while. And the traffic he saw the most was, strangely enough, Asian porn that would be legal in the United States.
Yep. I'm not surprised.
The pet theory that this particular gentleman came up with was China has very restrictive laws on pornography, and there's a bunch of very lonely Chinese men who are looking for porn.
And who wants to see a pixelated penis anyway?
No, it was mostly chicks.
How'd they know, though?
And I just saw a mouse run across my fucking living room. But
I guess that would be my first question: is how did they know? Oh yeah, that reminds me. I just now read that Peerless is saying goodbye. That made me sad.
Yeah.
I was actually gonna buy Peerless just to keep it open, but yeah.
I never really used it. I heard of it, but like never.
That was part of the problem. Is that was one of the things that when me and my team went to look at it, like they said that they had reached like 70% of the industry, which I didn't believe at all. And then like I asked a lot of people that I know and trust and respect their recommendations, and then like the feedback was weak at best. And I'm just like, so we still wanted to buy it anyways, just because people were sad that it was gone or going to be gone, but they wanted way too much money, and I'm just like, can't. It's just, it was well beyond 7, and I'm just like, I can't pay that for something with no income.
Yeah, just wait a year or two when they forget to re-register the domain and take it over.
No, it's okay. It can just be rebuilt or something. I'm thinking about just rebuilding something and just making it completely free. Like I can just eat the cost. It's no big deal.
Yeah. What did it do? What I mean, it was.
They provided a lot of online open resources in terms of information, tutorial guides, and stuff like that, and just like personal opinions and inputs from people throughout the industry globally. And it wasn't bad. The content wasn't terrible, but they just didn't have a strong strategy for monetization, and so it failed because of monetization after they burned through their initial capital funding, and then they couldn't make the monetization work, so it failed.
That's sad.
Yeah. Anytime an online resource for free information dies is always sad.
Well, at least we have archive.org. We can go look at it, you know.
True.
See, this kind of shit on a website drives me nuts. Allow cookies? Of course I have to click allow, otherwise I'm not going to go inspect element and just kill it.
I found a lot of them you can just close out by hitting the escape button.
Yeah. All right, so there's a Chinese ad network called Mint Eagle. I can't say words. Mintegral. It is accused of spying on activity and committing ad fraud. And this ad network is part of a software development kit that has been used on more than 1,200 apps in the iOS App Store. Meaning that there are
I gotta go.
400 apps that have this shitty adware. Go ahead.
I got to step up for a second. I'll be right back, though.
You're not allowed.
Oh, shit.
Come back, Adrian! We miss you! Don't leave me! So one of the apps called Helix Jump has over 500 million installs. And there are other apps like Talking Tom, which I had Talking Tom on my Android at one point. It was a stupid little cat thing. You'd say something and then the cat would repeat it back in the cat voice. I don't know why I installed it. Don't ask me. I thought it was cute. Whatever. So
what's Helix Jump? I've never even heard of that.
I don't know, but I'm going to click the thing and we're going to know in a minute what it is.
And it's malware.
It's still in the App Store, apparently.
Yeah. Some kind of game.
And this game is so addicting. I can't stop playing it. It's a fantastic game. Great quality. It's ads. It's malware. In your game. On your phone. Malware everywhere. All the time.
Yeah.
So there's the people who figured this out said, we identified a software development kit malicious component that is getting integrated into different iOS applications and getting into the App Store. The SDK is distributed as a regular ad network, something that developers can use to monetize their apps through ads. Snike notified Apple of the malicious SDK.
It's Synac.
Oh my God, I'm retarded. But there's an N there. It shouldn't be SYN.
Yeah. Yeah, I know some of the guys over at Synac. They're good people.
Synac.
Oh, that's Cynic. Okay, sorry, that's Cynic. All right. Yeah,
that's not Synac. That's Cynic. That's Cynic.
That's Cynic.
There are no vowels in here. So they identified it. There's video about it over here. We're not going to watch. So they recommend developers go and take that shit out of their apps.
Yeah. Did they actually go over why it was malware and why they were accusing it of being malicious? Like, was it just like intentionally like overinflating the clicks on the ads and like playing on the background in a background process and overinflating the views to get more ad revenue? Like, is that what they're accused of? Because that's what it sounds like to me. What they would do with it.
Yeah. I think there was actually another video that went with this one. Hold on. Malware on your Chinese SDK present on apps. Here it is. There's a whole explanation of it here.
In this short video, we'll demonstrate the Sourmint malicious SDK, which was distributed as a legitimate ad SDK by the Chinese company Mintegral. In August 2020, Sneak identified that the Mintegral SDK performs malicious activities like advertisement attribution fraud and leaking sensitive data. This video demonstrates the latter. The SDK is distributed as a legitimate ad attribution SDK, but it holds malicious functionality, hence the name Sourmint. The malicious SDK at the time of recording affects over 1,200 applications available on Apple's App Store, which has been downloaded over 300 million times every month. On the right-hand side here, we're running the Charles debugging proxy, which is connected to a live mobile device running an application we created that uses the malicious Mintegral SDK. This malicious library detects when proxies are connected and will not behave maliciously if monitored. However, we're going to set a couple of flags on responses sent back from the Mintegral servers to our mobile application so that the responses appear direct. We'll start the application on our device and show you the market-disrupting application called Scan QR. Oh yes, QR codes are still a thing. In the background, you can see some requests sent from the Mintegral SDK in our application to what appears to be a legitimate settings.rayjump.com URL, also owned by Mintegral. When the responses come back from the settings endpoint, we set flags upon them so that the Mintegral SDK running on the app believes it's not being monitored. Back to the Scan QR app. We're going to scan a QR code that contains the URL to a top secret document of ours. Please don't tell anyone about this. It's top secret. When we head back to the Scan QR app, the Mintegral SDK is able to get back on the CPU of our device and makes a request to the malicious n.systemlog.me URL. Digging deeper, we can see an encoded payload is sent. We'll copy this to the clipboard and in our terminal on the left, pipe the malicious payload into our script so we can decode it. In the output of our script, you can see the original encoded malicious payload followed by the decoded payload. There's a second layer of encoding used in the field named clever, which we further decode to reveal a JSON payload, which includes the URL of an HTTP request we made from our application. Mintegral now have access to our top secret document. The malicious
data farming
is monitoring.
Yeah, so if you look at the data set, what it's doing is it's data mining the device information, and then it's leveraging a second payload for the actual data payload itself. And so it's actually a payload and a payload for ease of processing. Probably some kind of back-end system digesting the clever, importing the clever, and then storing that data set for review later. It's actually pretty smart.
Yeah, I mean, if they know every website your app talks to, that can be bad.
Well, it's mostly probably just mining for traffic information, which they're selling later on the back end. So they're leveraging the ad network as effectively their own like cheap version of Google, where they're mining your data and then mining the traffic that you like to use. And then if you go back to the previous one where you could see the data on the back end there, the user's information. Go back, I'd say maybe 10 seconds or something.
Yeah, I'm a dumbass. I'm clicking on the video.
Mintegral now have access further decode to reveal the payload is sent. Copy this to our script so we can encoded malicious payload.
Yeah, like a fraction of a second back more. You want to see that bottom part there right there. Yeah, so you see that right there. It's tagging all the metadata from the system OS version, system ID. So they're uniquely linking it to your IP and your system ID to link things together. And it's pretty simple and straightforward stuff for just basic, I guess, meta tagging for a user. They're just mining data here. Pretty much every Android app does the same thing. It does violate Apple's terms of service, though, which is probably why they got in trouble. But yeah, that's an incredibly common practice. But yeah, I would hope your Google Docs can't just be read in the open unless it's something you intend to distribute.
We actually share it with everybody.
Oh, not yours. I mean, if you have an actual top secret document or something that you have restricted with an auth. Yeah. Yeah, it's not just publicly hanging out in the middle of oblivion if it's something sensitive.
Yeah. We got the SDKs there.
Yeah. They're probably dumping all that data into some kind of API, which is dumping it into something like Elastic or something for big data processing for some kind of data mining operation. Probably.
Yeah, I actually filled up my Elastic Stack, Logstash cluster. I filled it up with a whole bunch of stuff from different breaches, like username password combos.
Yeah.
And it got so big it wouldn't run anymore. Nope.
Yeah. I've still got about 200, 300 terabytes of data. I've still got to go out and mine at some point of just a ton of Elastic data that's just exposed on the internet. There's a lot of people in a lot of countries that don't actually set up the security module.
Well, they used to charge for it. It's only recent that they're
yeah. That was part of the conversation that I had with them, which is part of the reason why they pushed to get it to go from a paid service to free, was because of the fact that I was having a conversation with them where it's I can go download hundreds of terabytes of Elastic data at my leisure. It's really bad. People don't realize that all you have to do is attach a Kibana instance to an Elastic service, and it'll automatically download the Kibana settings for that Elastic stack. And so if you don't have it configured properly, they can literally just connect a Kibana instance to your box and literally just see everything. It's pretty fucking terrifying.
Badass.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of things that you should be doing with Kibana and Elastic in order to secure it. But Canvas is really nice, so there's that.
So next, we've got some developers who decided to put some medical records up on their GitHub. Yeah, that's smart.
Who's getting that HIPAA fine?
Everybody. Let's pass it around. So the article starts off with, repeat after me, do not store hard-coded credentials for systems in GitHub repositories.
Or API keys.
Yeah. There are bots that'll crawl looking for API keys too. Also, make sure that none of your vendors or business associates are doing that. So this example comes from a new report on how 9 U.S. organizations exposed protected health information, or PHI, of up to 150,000 patients. That information was gathered by Jesse Ursum, Schizo Ducky, a Netherlands-based security researcher who over the past 18 months says he found and reported GitHub credential exposure problems to more than 400 organizations, including cybersecurity firm Komodo.
Ooh,
That's pretty funny.
that's bad. I know, but
researcher, along with privacy advocate dissident, Pogo was right handle, runs the databreaches.net blog and published a new report, No Need to Hack When It's All Leaking. GitHub healthcare leaks protected health information onto public web. Your dog said hello.
yeah, sorry. He's trying to join the podcast.
He's trying. We describe 9 cases, causes, and recommendations, but the problems we describe and the recommendations certainly apply to other sectors as well. Before you read it, care to guess how many of the 9 entities did not respond to initial attempts at responsible disclosure?
90%.
78%.
Ah, damn, I was close. I bet you Komodo did.
One's hoping. So all of the exposed data was discovered by Ursum via GitHub searches, and some of it had been inappropriately exposed for years, the report describes. Finding such data, Ursum claims to be the lamest hacker you know and uses variations on simple search phrases like company name and password, or in this case, Medicaid password FTP, to quickly find potential.
So if you run out of data to look at, you can just go download more.
I can Google. I as hacker.
Yeah. By the way, could you scroll up for just a quick second? I think that's a custom-made dashboard that did he make his own tool? What is that?
No, it says maybe it is.
Yeah, did he make that? That looks pretty good. That shit's good. It's bootstrapped, but it's good. It's well made. Good job.
That's Kibana.
Is that Kibana? I'm sorry, I can't see it.
You recognize this left-hand side right here?
Yeah,
that's
a standard bootstrap toolbar.
So clearly more organizations would benefit from offering a contact point for well-intentioned security researchers to give them a heads up if any problems happened and they were discovered. So the cautionary tale, the Uber debacle. I'm going to skip this because we actually have a whole article on that one. But we're going to go down to Gnostic Players, Shiny Hunters. Using creds obtained by GitHub from 2018 to 2019, the Gnostic Players used this practice against dozens of organizations to steal information from Microsoft's private GitHub repositories as well as other victims. Also, some people go after Mongo databases. That's been going on for a while.
Yeah, that's popular right now. Databases.
And of course, misconfigured Elasticsearch databases are a big one, like we were talking about. And they recommend you lock down your GitHub, not store any hard-coded credentials in there. That's just not smart. And next, let's talk about Uber. We're going to skip down a little bit, and we're going to talk about Uber.
Oh, this one makes me sad, especially with layoffs.
Uber. So apparently, Uber got hit with ransomware sometime in the past, and they paid off the attackers and didn't disclose it. And now the CSO is likely going to be going to jail for it. So this was not as cut and dry as it would seem. So when they paid off the attackers, they claimed it was for a bug bounty program. They paid them in Bitcoin. Typically, it's not how you pay off people in bug bounty programs. And they made them sign a non-disclosure agreement saying they wouldn't. They didn't find anything on Uber servers. All right. Let's actually go to the article instead of Frank's memory of it from when he read it yesterday. The Department of Justice announced in a press release today that Joseph Sullivan, former CSO at Uber, allegedly tried to cover up a 2016 hack that compromised data of millions of users and drivers. A criminal complaint charged Joseph Sullivan with obstruction of justice when he attempted to cover up the 2016 hack of Uber Technologies Incorporated. The press release discusses how, rather than the 2016 breach, Sullivan allegedly took deliberate steps to prevent knowledge of the breach from reaching the FTC. He allegedly sought to pay off the hackers by funneling the payoff through a bug bounty program, a program in which a third-party intermediary arranges payments so that so-called white hat hackers who point out security issues but have not actually compromised the data. An Uber spokesman provided the following statement: "We continue to cooperate fully with the DOJ. Our decision in 2017 to disclose the incident was not only the right thing to do, but it embodies the principles in which we are running our business today: transparency, integrity, and accountability." What a load of horse shit.
Yeah. How? I'm still struggling with the obstruction charge. How is that any different than being hit with a ransomware? Like, I would see the ransomware being the bigger concern.
But if you get hit with ransomware, you have to disclose it to the public. You can't just get hit.
Yeah, but there's been a ton of people hit with ransomware attacks where they just pay it, it goes away, and they never disclose that they got hit with ransomware. And then
on the you have to disclose it.
Yeah, but even on the but getting back to the BBPs, like with BBPs, there have been plenty of BBPs where I've been in personally where I've gotten data and they didn't have to disclose it. As a matter of fact, the BBPs, they come with the NDA built in. And so I'm struggling to grasp this obstruction of justice allegation. Like, that part doesn't make any sense. The other pieces, like with the FTC, I mean, I could definitely see where you lied about it or something as being an obstruction, but they didn't lie to anybody. They just didn't tell anyone. And so, I mean, how many people do you know where, like, they make a public announcement every time you successfully are able to, like, get data from a database, from an API through a BBP? Like, you would have tens of thousands of announcements every day from those. Like, that part doesn't make any sense to me. It's not in line with standard industry practice, and that's confusing.
Yeah. There was something else about the story I think I had seen. Not in here.
Yeah, I just don't understand that part.
Yeah. I think I saw another article about this. I didn't put it in here, but it went into more detail about how the data has since leaked again. That they had said that they it was like they signed an NDA saying that this is what we found and we're going to get paid X amount of dollars for whatever.
Yeah.
But then that same data was leaked out like into a place like Raid Forums with like internal Uber data.
Yeah.
So I think that's what kind of set it all off.
Yeah. So did they like breach the data, take the data, get a copy of it, and then they dumped it? Like.
Yeah.
And that's how they found out, because otherwise it doesn't make any sense. Like how anybody even found out about it in the first place.
Yeah, there was definitely a leak of it. I might have heard about it a little bit more on other podcasts, Pulse Security Weekly, the news one. I think they talked about it a little bit.
Yeah, I feel sorry for that CISO. I mean, that's a shit situation.
Yeah, it's not fun. It's trying to deal with a situation like that.
Yeah, at the same time, though, I still understand it from the Fed's perspective, which is he had an obligation to announce that there was a breach, and he didn't. And from that perspective, I get it. But at the same time, it's it's gonna bring a lot of animosity to BBP programs, because then it's gonna go from, okay, we have this BBP program, we're protected, to, okay, well, we have a BBP program, but we have to report it anyways. And so there's a great chance they may end up causing a regression in the industry, because companies will just back out of BBP programs, and then there'll just be way more vulnerabilities out there. This just doesn't seem like it's good long term.
Yeah. So this next article is a really long one, and I'm not really going to go through the whole thing. I'm just going to do my version of the summary on it. So if you've heard of Google Cloud SQL, it's a fully managed relational database service. You can spin up an SQL server, essentially connect to Postgre or MySQL server. It's completely monitored and secured, and it's all in the cloud, and Google takes care of pretty much everything, and you do not get low-level access to it. You can't do stuff on the machine. All you have is, access to it via like the SQL connector type stuff, right? So these guys decided they're going to get a shell in their own instance. And they went about and they did that, and they saw, as once they logged in, they did like an LS of the directory they were in, and Google had put Google's like security people had put a text file in there, essentially saying that they were watching them.
I'll be watching you.
I was about to say, it's like Google's security team. Yeah.
What the fuck? And others. Yes, my spyware is talking right now. I don't know why.
Spyware's talking to you? Perfect. But yeah, like, one thing I will say about Google's security team, is they're very on point. Like, if you're feeling frisky and you start playing around on Google's cloud.
So they got they did an LS, and then in their folder was a file called greetings.txt, and it said greetings from Google's site reliability engineering team. That's great.
Oh, that's funny.
So wait, so now they're in a Docker instance, right? And Google has dropped that text file into that Docker instance, letting them know they're being watched. So they know that it's time limited, right? So now they escaped the host. They got out of the Docker instance onto the actual machine running the Docker instance. That's great. It talks about the technicals of how they did that in the article. It's in the show notes if you're interested in it. It's a good read.
Yeah, and by the way, out of all the BBPs that are out there, Google's is actually really good. And they pay very well for good stuff. Like something like this, they'll cut you a nice check. They're pretty generous on their BBP payouts, and the cred goes a long way.
Okay. Next, we've got Transparent Tribe apt targets government military by infecting USB devices. And Transparent, it's an interesting name. Transparent Tribe. They are a hacking group focused on campaigns in India and Afghanistan. And this apt group has been tracked by Proofpoint since 2013. And they're also called Project M and Mythic Leopard by other places that track things. They're focused on surveillance and spying, and to accomplish these, the group constantly is evolving toolkits depending on their intended target. Their attack chain starts off typically by spear phishing. Fraudulent messages are sent together with malicious Microsoft Office documents containing an embedded macro that deploys the group's main payload, called the Crimson Remote Access Tool, or the Crimson RAT. If a victim falls for the scheme and enables the macros, the custom.NET Trojan launches, connects to the C2 server, starts data exfiltration, remote malware updates, stealing files, grabbing screenshots, compromising microphones, webcams, audio, doing all the fun stuff that rats can do. It comes in two different versions, one compiled in 2017, one in 2018, and that's three. One in 2019, suggesting that it's still in active development. If a USB device is connected to an infected PC, a copy of the Trojan is installed onto the removable drive, and the malware will list all directories on a drive and then copy the Trojan buried in the root drive directory. The directory attribute is then changed to hidden, and a fake Windows directory icon is used to lure victims into clicking on and executing the payload when they attempt to access directories. Do you think you're clicking on a directory? No, you ain't. You're clicking on the executable. Pretty clever.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it goes on.
Yeah. And I don't know if for you guys, but for anybody out there, Proofpoint / CrowdStrike has a pretty decent ET service, especially given the price point. Not selling it for them or anything, but you do get what you pay for.
Proofpoint, eh? Not a Mandiant fan?
Too expensive. They're good, but they're really expensive, and so it's one of those things. Is the bang worth the buck?
All right. Next, we have the University of Utah decided to pay a $457,000 ransom to a ransomware gang, and they restored from backups anyway.
What?
So they restored from backups, right? But they didn't want the ransomware gang to leak student data that they had exfiltrated.
Oh, they paid for privacy.
So
okay.
They paid for the privacy, which, to be fair, in the line of business of the ransomware people, if you say that you are not going to leak their shit and then you leak their shit, no one's going to pay you anymore. So you might as well just not leak their shit or keep it for yourself and use it for your own nefarious purposes. But like,
you're gonna be fined either way. So
they only encrypted 0.02% of the actual files on servers, right? But despite that, they exfiltrated who knows what. And the proof of what they exfiltrated that they sent to the university was enough to scare them into paying the ransom. So they didn't want that shit getting out. So they did it. They paid. Good for them.
$25 million in ransom payments? Jesus.
What?
Yeah, that article cited that they were linked to 25 up. I think it's at 25 million. Yeah, had made more than 25 million in ransom payments this year. Yeah. Jesus, this year?
We're in the wrong business, man.
That's more than most security companies make.
Next, you've got 8.3 million free pick users exposed in a data breach by Kelly Early.
But isn't free picks data for sale anyways?
I have no idea. So email addresses and password hashes were accessed in a recent breach affecting some of the oldest users on FreePick's image sharing platform. It's a popular website that provides access to free stock photos and design graphics. In a statement, the company said it immediately notified authorities of the breach, which estimated to have affected 8.3 million users. Security breach was due to SQL injection that allowed attackers to access user information in the company's database. The breach affected 8.3 million of the users' oldest users whose email addresses and extracted password hashes were accessed. The hash of the password cannot be used to log into a user account. That's not accurate. You cracked the hash, unless it's salted, which makes it more of a pain in the ass, but it can still be cracked. You can get in with that. Yeah. Don't talk about how they stored it, if it was MD5 or anything. Yeah.
What I find most interesting in this is that out of the 8.3, 4.5 are using federated, which is pretty interesting metrics there. That's pretty interesting. Like, were they using OAuth or something, and then like everyone just opted for OAuth, or like?
So since it says it's the oldest users of the site,
Yeah.
I'm thinking at one point they changed encryption methods, but didn't. Maybe they kept reversible encryption on.
What they might have done, which I see happen a lot, is you'll have some kind of generic database based authentication system, and then you'll move to like an OAuth SAML type model with federated login, and then they said older users, which is what makes me really think that that's the case. And then like all your new users just use the federation authentication method, but then your older users use the old school auth system, and they keep both of them online in parallel. And
the old ones were in Decrypt, and the new ones were salted MD5.
Yeah, and they just never forced the customers to switch over because that would have been inconvenient. And in fairness, that's a lot of users to move over. That's almost 4 million users to have to force over.
Yeah.
That would definitely qualify as disruptive.
So the people who had the MD5 passwords all got password reset mails telling them they had to reset their password. So that's one way to deal with it.
So they used Decrypt and salted MD5 as two different methods.
Yep.
Interesting. Yeah. So what they did was they scrubbed the salted MD5 because that's really easy to break, whereas in Bcrypt it's like an ungodly amount of compute, and it takes forever to brute force.
Yeah, if it's regular MD5 is not that bad, but if it's salted, it's a real pain in the ass. Throw that at Hashcat, even with a decent graphics card, it's going to take fucking forever.
Yeah, I can send you a graphic if you want, where somebody went through the trouble of actually testing security for each different type of encryption methodology, and Bcrypt was like the hashtag God mode. That took it went from like hundreds of millions or billions to like 14 or something with Bcrypt. And it's just Bcrypt just beats the ever living shit out of even clustered GPU setups. And so
yeah, you should send me that GIF at some point.
Yeah, I've got it saved somewhere. But yeah, my recommendation is if you can't use Federation, at least use Bcrypt.
It's a good recommendation. All right, next we've got FBI talks about phishing. Now, phishing is phishing over the phone. They are warning that remote users should be looking out for some phishing attacks, especially ones where it's people asking for your two-factor authentication over the phone. I mean, if you give out your two-factor over the phone, you're dumb. You're very, very dumb.
I'll at least give them points for having it turned on. If everyone could just turn that on, it'd be great.
By the time you repeat it to the person, it's already switched to the next code. All right. So the FBI and the CISA in a joint security advisory are stating the shift to home working and increased use of VPNs has led to new phishing campaigns being launched by threat actors. Analysts have suggested that the high-profile breach at Twitter that saw celebrity attacks being targeted in a Bitcoin scam could have been the result of a phishing attack. We don't know. It's just pure speculation. But
yeah. The group that I've been monitoring in regards to that, just a quick interjection there, claims that they paid an employee to give the access, and they weren't actually vished or social engineered. They literally just paid for the access, but that hasn't been confirmed.
The fact that they wasted that on a Bitcoin scam, that the teenager from Florida,
yeah,
it's what the hell? You could have sold that access to Russia for millions.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. In regards to that, I think there was more to that story than meets the eye. It just...
It doesn't smell right.
It doesn't pass the smell test, because Twitter, for as shitty as the company is in regards to their personality, of their personnel, they are on top of their game. They have pretty decent security teams compared to other large companies, definitely compared to other competitors. And so I just don't buy that someone just randomly walked into the network with one social engineering attempt and got access to everything and nobody noticed. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. I've got way too many windows open. I'm closing a few. All right. Yeah. So we read this shit already. All right. What is phishing and how does it work? Phishing attacks occur when victims receive fraudulent phone calls by hackers posing as someone else, often as a colleague from the help desk or support service. They call to extract personal information from the victim that allows them to access secure systems. In a recent example, threat actors registers words. All right. In a recent example, threat actors registered domains and created phishing pages, duplicating a company's internal VPN login page, and also captured two-factor authentication and one-time use passcodes. They then compiled dossiers on employees of the specific companies using mass scraping of public profiles on social media, recruiter and marketing tools, as well as open source research tools to collect personal information. In other words, they did their homework, they did some OSINT, they figured out some shit about the employees, and then they completely own the place. It happens. Oftentimes, it's not even a skilled attacker that phones you. It's an unskilled attacker, which brings me to another article that I've got. If I find, let me just use the word unskilled. There we go. So, unskilled hackers can breach 3 out of 4 companies. This is an article from a while back, but I mean, it's like, you don't need to be really good at hacking. You can kind of suck and know some basic techniques and be savvy, and you will get in. So,
just a quick thing. Can we go back to that article real quick, please? Who was the author of that article? I think that was a woman.
Yep.
Awesome. Mendoza. Awesome.
And
sorry, I like to put women in cybersecurity in the spotlight so they get extra coverage. My apologies.
You should be sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, and authors of articles are too often not cited for their work, and they do put a shitload of work into making one article.
You know, somebody I came across recently who actually wrote a lot of the cybersecurity articles that I was reading, and I didn't realize was Catalin Simpano from ZDNet. That dude writes a shit ton of articles that I have quoted in this cast and not even realized he was the one who wrote them.
Yeah.
He writes a lot of crap.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I find most frustrating is the fact that a lot like open source authors, which is part of my research project, people will know the tool or they'll know the resource, but they won't actually know the people who actually make it. And so, like, you go to ask somebody like cybersecurity authors, outside of Brian Krebs, it's about the only name that they can drop within 10 seconds. And that's really frustrating. Like, I wish more authors got more coverage and were recognized more often for their work.
I saw an article the other day that was talking about Responder, and at the bottom of the article, it linked to the GitHub page for the Spider Labs version of Responder that hasn't been updated in like 7 years, whereas LGNX forked it and has been updating it since like then. You know, it's just, why link to the old one? That's me bitching about an article that I read that I can't remember where it was. All right, moving forward in the show notes. We've covered this shit right here. Next, we have Google patches CVE 2020 69 something or other, 6492. This was a use after free vulnerability in web graphics library in Chrome. This was where a JavaScript API lets a user render 2D and 3D graphics in their browser. This flaw stems from WebGL component failing to properly handle objects in memory. It could allow for code execution, meaning it's probably a buffer overflow. It's interesting. Yeah. All right. Next, unpatched security vulnerabilities in Safari. Keep loading. All right. So a researcher has disclosed how the details of a vulnerability in Apple's Safari web browser can be exploited to steal files from a target user system. The issue was discovered in April by Paul. I can't pronounce Paul's last name. I think it's Wileckiel. He's a Polish-based researcher and founder of Red Team PL and Black Owl Sec. Apple said at the time it had started investigating the issue, but the tech giant told him in mid-August that it would only address it with security updates that were scheduled to come out in spring of 2021. Apple asked the researcher to hold off disclosure until then. The researcher decided not to.
Wait. So they wanted to hold off on a vulnerability for almost a year?
Yep.
Dude, that is insane. I wish I wish everybody would stop doing that. Like, that's absurd. I'm sorry.
Yeah, responsible disclosure. What is it? I think 70 days or something like that.
Typically, it's 30. Most places, like the standard is 30 days. Like, that's absurd, man. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So launching an attack requires convincing a targeted user to visit a malicious website and perform certain actions. But the researcher has described the attack scenario where it could be successful, and where it just described an attack scenario, it leads to the article on the website of the person who discovered this, and it goes into further detail. All right. So the issue exists in both macOS and iOS. After selecting different methods of sharing, we will get different results. Some of them are shown below. Mail app, okay. Somebody sends an email, check out this picture of a cat. All right. Messages for iOS display the file name, so it's not that great. Interesting. Here it's a proof of concept, stealing the iOS Safari browsing history with proof of concept code. All right. So essentially, you get somebody to visit your web page, and you can steal their browsing history. That can be useful. It's kind of like cross-site scripting, right? It seems very similar to that. Proof of concept code. That's what
I'd be more interested in the local files from the sheer amount of data that's dumped locally before it's exfilled.
Yeah. Oh, great.
They can dump your photos. Oh, that's worse than the iCloud breach.
That's interesting. All right. I'm not going to go through the source code of that because, one, I'm not going to understand it, and two, I'm going to look like an idiot trying to describe it to you guys. So let's go further here. Next, we have tactics, techniques, and procedures associated with malware within the Chinese government mandated tax software. The government says you need to use this tax software. So what do? You download it and you use it, right? Well, if you're in China and you do that, what happens? The government now has backdoor to your system. That's great. This is a supply chain attack, I guess. Yeah. Skimming. All right. So there is all right, persistence, Prevesk. Yes, this is pretty much a rat built into the software that you're using to do your taxes if you're working with China. You download the software, and guess what? They've got access to your box. It's got built-in persistence. It's got built-in privilege escalation. Yeah.
So do they mandate that you actually use it, or you just have to have it?
So government mandated tax software. That's what it says. I guess they mandate you have to use it to do your taxes.
Yeah, I would just dump that in some kind of extranet if you had to work with the Chinese for some reason. Like,
dump that in a VM and don't give it network access.
yeah, seriously, just dump it in an extranet so you can remain compliant, but don't ever put it on your intranet or give it access to it.
That's pretty badass, man. Making the tax software a freaking Trojan horse. That's pretty evil.
Well, it's the same thing that they do where they mandate that you have to give them your encryption keys. Like, yeah, it's just. It's not
wait till the encryption bills pass here, and then we're gonna have to give them all our encryption.
They're not gonna pass the encryption bill here. It's never gonna happen.
Yeah, we'll see about that.
Yeah, it's not gonna happen because the issue is that they'll, even if they did pass it, it would be for a very short period of time. Because the issue
they would realize that everything uses encryption.
Yeah, because the issue with encryption is that the weakness that you're building into the encryption can be exploited by anyone with the means to actually understand the issue itself. And so if you weaken the encryption, you don't just weaken it for the government, you weaken it for anyone with the ability to break it. And so that's like downgrading from bcrypt to MD5. Like, good luck with that.
All right, next we've got mercenary hacker group targets companies with 3ds Max malware. So 3ds Max is a program that a lot of companies use for stuff. It's like a graphic application. It's made by the people who make Autodesk. All right, so there are malicious plugins that are being distributed for this software that essentially will give attackers access to your system. So you install a plugin for your shitty graphics program and your shitty expensive graphics program that your employer mandates you to use, and it does bad things. The Romanian security firm who did this investigation was able to confirm attacks against at least one target, an international architectural and video production company currently engaged in architectural projects with billion-dollar luxury real estate developers across 4 continents. It is reaching out to a malware command and control server that is located in South Korea. Yeah. So, would you like some malware with your images?
That's why I don't recommend anything free for Windows. Because if it's free, it's free with an asterisk mark.
That costs money, that shit. That's
expensive. Probably the software's expensive, sure. The module's free.
For free.
Yeah, the plugin's free for a reason though. That's what I'm saying. That's why I don't install anything on Microsoft systems that are quote unquote free. Yep.
I like paint.net, that's free.
Yep. First thing I remove is everything that's on the box that's free too.
So in other shit, which is our wonderful section of the Irongeek podcast, where we talk about things that are not necessarily InfoSec related. We talk about Zoom on Monday had a crash, leaving students' businesses scrambling with the no ability to do their video messaging online. It's like, Zoom is down. What do we do? I don't know. Use Teams? No, don't use Teams. That's horrible.
Jitsi works pretty damn well most of the time. I just happen to switch to this particular platform because I think it's prettier.
It is pretty. I like the way it handles windows. Like, we can share a window and still see all of us. That's kind of neat.
Yeah.
Even though we haven't seen a pretty face lately, Adrian.
Nathan was apparently having problems connecting to it. I don't know because he connects from his phone or whatnot.
Probably.
Nathan has some convoluted setup.
He's probably got all that weird crypto shit screwing up things.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm trying not to accentuate my hate. I hate people. Shit. So I continue.
So long story short, they were down for like half a day, right? And in that time, their shares fell 2.6% in trading for being down for half a day. That sucks.
Did they ever say what the actual issue was, though? Yeah, because I've got a lot of issues with Zoom. Like everything from the fact that they pipe all of their traffic through China to the fact that they've now released this security module that you now have to pay for. It's kind of like the safety features for Boeing. The plane is the purchase, but then the security and safety features are additional add-ons. I liken that to the same. They're just Boeing all over again.
They at least mandate that you have to have a password on a meeting now. I mean,
Yeah.
That's a positive step.
Now, like.
So they didn't disclose the cause of technical difficulties, right? They didn't say what it was. Maybe it was ransomware. That'd be hilarious, right?
Or it was more of that porn bombing that happened at that one court case.
It's court trial, yeah.
Was it gay porn or something? I think that they tossed on it. And then I think the judge like stopped the court case, killed the Zoom, and like the judge was obviously justifiably livid. I can't imagine.
Case made it even funnier.
Yeah, I can't imagine that did the kid any favors though.
Oh yeah, now the judge is pissed and he's like,
yeah,
fucking hackers.
Like now he really wants to hit him with the book.
Next we have A.G. William Barr says he is vehemently opposed to pardoning Edward Snowden. So if you're watching the news lately, Trump screwed with us the other day, maybe a week or two ago, and everybody thought he was going to be pardoning Snowden, but then he pardoned a dead person instead.
Absolutely no respect for law and order. She broke the law. He shouldn't have pardoned her. Oh, sorry. Did I say that out loud? Never mind. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I'm sorry. Did you say she? Did Snowden no longer identify as he?
No. He pardoned.
You're getting your people mixed up who are transgender.
Yeah.
No. He pardoned Susan B. Anthony.
Yeah.
I thought he pardoned somebody else as well. Some John somebody. He must have pardoned multiple people because I remember him reading about him pardoning some John somebody at the convention.
Are we thinking about PBS? And I sent to her something like, you know what? I agree with you now. Trump was not the law and order president I expected. And I sent her the article about him pardoning Susan B. Anthony. And I don't know if she got my joke, but yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get this later from people on Twitter, but
yeah, I have mixed feelings on Snowden. It's a really precarious situation to find.
I don't know what to think. I do not know what to think. I think probably why is it disappearing from my fucking head?
Yeah, it was a bad position to find yourself in for anybody. But at the same time, it's one of those things where the space that he was working in at the time had an expectation that you're going to see things that you probably didn't like or were going to find incredibly unpleasant, and probably were morally opposed to.
Well, probably a better justification for pardoning Julian Assange, because technically he was working as a journalist. And
yeah, that one I understand, because it's Assange was just doing his job. He wasn't the one who actually stole the documents.
People were saying he's a traitor, but he just published it, and he's not even he can't be a traitor exactly.
Yeah, he
helped crack passwords.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well, he didn't help crack passwords, from what I understand. He said that he would consider cracking the passwords or could assist on cracking passwords. But from what I understand, he didn't actually crack any passwords. And from what I also understand, those passwords were never actually used to try to break into a system or access without authorization.
But we can all agree that Malware Tech Blog can go back in jail, right?
Yeah, we can do it.
Okay, just checking.
I don't think he did it.
You don't think he did it?
Mm-mm. Like selling the POC code. Yeah, no. Here's what I mean. I don't think he was part of some sophisticated cyber criminal ring or whatever. I think what it is he had some code.
He wrote banking malware when he was younger.
He sold some code, and then someone else turned that code after a large amount of modifications, which the person that got arrested for it actually said. He sold him some POC code years ago and worked on it for years to change it. And so it wasn't the original code by a landslide. And so that'd be like me selling you like a Python socket script, and then you turn it into like Zeus 3.0 or something. and then like I go to jail for selling you a POC, like that doesn't make any sense because you can download that same code off the internet. Are we going to arrest random open source software developers now?
The one thing
Or
I will
the
about
developers
Snowden,
of Python, like
he risked losing his hot stripper girlfriend, but my understanding she joined him in Russia or something.
Yeah.
So I guess
I think the only mistake that Malware Tech made, which is something I openly tell people, if you're going to be arrested or detained, never talk to the police. Lawyer up.
Oh yeah, he said
down,
on a fucking
shut
monitor
up.
line.
Yeah, sit down. Shut up.
I never did shit to him, and he came after me on Twitter. So
Yeah.
I have a little bit of animosity.
Oh, I have animosity for him as well, but from a professional perspective, I respect him. I separate personal and professional completely.
It's
And
hard
so
to do, man. It's hard to do.
He's good at what he does. I have no qualms with his capability. He's an incredibly exceptional reverse engineer analyst. He's amazing. But when it comes to the social aspects, he's like every other introvert and he struggles. And so he thought he was helping, and in reality, he was digging himself a hellhole to crawl into. And that's why I tell everybody is if they arrest you, detain you, or require you to go to a police station, sit down, shut up, and ask for a lawyer.
That's what the ACLU a while back said, and various people they had on their side who are less than reputable had said, and that's generally just the good advice. Keep your mouth shut.
Sit down, shut up, and wait for your lawyer to show up, and then answer all the questions that they ask. Cooperate, obviously, because you always want to work with law enforcement when you can, if you actually want to help, and run everything through your lawyer. Because they're going to keep you from digging yourself into a prison sentence, which is unfortunately what happened with him.
I've only had one interaction with a lawyer, and while people give shit to lawyers, you may not like lawyers in general.
Yeah.
You love
I hate InfoSec law. Like, I fucking hate those people. Like, pretty much everyone from the whole fucking Twitter legal / whatever the fuck they call their groups these days. I fucking hate those people. But I respect them for their profession. Because they do keep a lot of people out of jail that don't deserve to be there. And I personally believe that Malware Tech was not one of them. I've ran with the circle of people, like, that's where I came from. Like, out of the original people I ran with, 38 of them are in jail. And they're just now starting to get out. And they deserve to go to jail. Malware Tech did not.
Oh, by the way, how does it feel that one of the people in charge of cybersecurity for the Biden campaign has ties to no Nazi sympathizers?
I'm not okay with anybody that affiliates with actual Nazis at all.
The guy claims it. I think he's actually got a tattoo. We'll talk about it after cast.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
With the 10 hack commandments.
Rule number 1: don't talk to the feds. No, I don't know.
You're right. That's in there. I'm not going to play the whole thing, otherwise we'll get a copyright strike. The article just talks about how Barr does not think we should pardon Snowden. He thinks it will lead to copycat attacks. He thinks yada, yada, yada. Nobody cares.
And I'm back, I think.
I openly doubt that. Like, after what happened with Snowden, access completely changed with the feds. Like, well, relatively speaking. I mean, but yeah, you can't just walk out of there anymore with a USB stick in. I think in the movie, they referenced a Rubik's Cube or something. I don't know what he actually used to get it out of the building. But yeah.
Would you stop doing that? You're triggering like epilepsy.
Yeah.
All right.
Is this the one with the embedded AI? I'm super excited about this one.
So now we're going to be talking about Neuralink, Elon Musk's brain-computer interface project. We all know Adrian is just waiting to get one of these installed.
So I can become Freddy Krueger in real life?
No, so you can record all the cons without the cameras.
Assuming people will let me.
It'll save him a few grand.
So Elon Musk is set to make an announcement about Neuralink, a company designing brain-computer interfaces, on Friday, August 28th. It sounds like science fiction, but research in this area has progressed rapidly in recent years. Though we are far from being able to send emails with our minds. Unlike Musk's famous ventures like SpaceX and Tesla, however, Neuralink will be vastly more limited in terms of how fast it can innovate and push out consumer products. Here's what we should know about the project, including what's theoretically possible, how skeptical you should be, and what else is designing brain-computer interfaces. Who else? Not what else. Announced by Elon Musk in 2017, Neuralink will attempt to use ultra-high bandwidth brain-machine interfaces to connect humans and computers, or more simply, connect the human brain with computers via implantable brain chips. At first, Neuralink's brain interfaces could be used to treat brain disorders such as Parkinson's, epilepsy, and depression. They could be used in conjunction with advanced assistive devices in which a person's thoughts could control artificial limbs or prosthetics. Should Musk's ultimate vision be achieved, however, this technology would take on a more transhumanistic complexion, allowing future humans to control external devices with their minds, transmit thoughts directly to another person's brain, and even augment cognitive capabilities such as increased intelligence and memory. We are all going to become Lawnmower Man. More conceptually, Musk has positioned Neuralink as a potential way for humanity to prevent an AI apocalypse. Now, the AI can't take over if, you're connected to it. Saying the technology could help us achieve a sort of symbiosis with artificial intelligence. We are going to become the Borg. Yes. When the project was launched 3 years ago, okay. By boosting our puny brains, he argued, we will be able to stand toe-to-toe with artificial advanced technologies in a kind of can't beat 'em, join 'em solution to the pending problem, which I critiqued back in 2017. These ideas are nothing new. Of course, science fiction has been on top of this for decades, whether it be William Gibson's Cranial Jacks or Ian Banks' Neural Lace, The Matrix's Brain Plug, or any speculative vision in which human minds commune directly within the digital realm.
I'm sure Robert A. Heinlein had something like this before everybody else, because he usually does.
So all this sounds very fascinating, and it is, but here's the prerequisite bucket of cold water. Unlike electric cars or rockets, brain-computer interfaces are considered medical devices. This means the company will have to go through the appropriate regulatory channels to get its experiments and products approved for use in humans, including consent from the USDA.
Unless you get it implanted in Japan.
Exactly.
Like the guy with the, God, what was it? Weather sensing? What was it? LiDAR or something? I can't remember what the guy put. He had like weather sensing and pressure sensing like sensors implanted into his head. And like I think he charges it with like magnetic USB or something. It's insane. Like it's biohacking to an extreme. Definitely not interested in radar dishes on my head.
In this anime that I was watching, they all have like brain implants, and they all play this game that like lets them slow down time in reality and go into an alternate reality. It's pretty cool shit. Anyway, so despite challenges, scientists have made great strides over the years as they try to turn science fiction into reality. Musk might get most media attention though. But not so famous researchers have also been making breathtaking progress in this area, and they've given a sneak peek at what might actually be possible. Last year, some people from Columbia University translated brainwaves into recognizable speech, while a team from the University of California, San Francisco built a virtual vocal tract capable of simulating the mechanical aspects of a verbal communication by tapping directly into the human brain.
So in essence, they're experimenting with telepathy.
Well,
or something like a precursor to it.
In 2016, a brain implant allowed an amputee to use their thoughts to move individual fingers on a prosthetic hand. Brain-machine interface has also been used to create mind-controlled robotic exoskeletons, restore a sense of touch, and partial motor function in people with spinal injuries. Some interesting work has also been done, as you mentioned, brain-to-brain communications in humans, though that's still early. Work in non-human animals has also yielded results. Notable examples including a wireless brain interface that allowed a monkey to control a wheelchair with its mind, and a brain implant that allowed monkeys to type at 12 words a minute using only their thoughts. I didn't know monkeys knew English, so how are they typing at 12 words a minute? But if you give them enough typewriters and enough time, they will read Shakespeare.
I think the scary part is eventually monkeys will have a faster typing speed than the average person.
So Musk's foray into the world is hardly groundbreaking, at least for now. What's potentially different at the scale is funding and intent of the Neuralink mission, which mentions the charismatic nature of Elon Musk himself. That said, there are some rival projects outside of academia, including similar endeavors launched by Facebook, which recently purchased a neural interface startup called Control Labs in a deal worth somewhere between $500 and $1 billion. Kernel, a $100 million project launched by Braintree founder Byron Johnson, and the U.S. government's DARPA, which has devoted $65 million in its effort. Musk, it would seem, is hardly the only person throwing big money at this sort of initiative, but it remains to be seen if Neuralink will succeed in what appears to be an increasingly competitive space. This article just goes on and on. It's done. We're done. That's enough of the article.
Yeah. My bigger thing and where I've been focusing my attention for developments is ocular base.
I just want to get a HUD. That's all I want.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm looking forward to. Is there's one research out there right now where they've actually built ocular implants to give you a screen that responds to effectively eye directional movement and focus area. So, like, if you look into a certain area, it actually focuses on that spot. And they have an actual LED screen built into the contact lens.
Guys, I think we covered it maybe last week also, but the Google Glass project, did that ever actually go anywhere, or is that dead now?
No, it's still out there, but it's not getting as much attention or effort as it could.
In the end-user development agreement, I may be saying that wrong, they eliminated two things, facial recognition and pornography. And that's the only two reasons I can think we want it.
Well, for me, it's effectively a walking HUD if you build enough software behind it. But the big issue was everybody was freaking out because it had the camera on it, and everybody thought that Google was recording everything that you saw and heard.
Yes.
And so, like, they were freaking out about being spied on.
Is to look at you, Logan, and have it automatically pop up in the HUD and say, "Oh, I forgot Logan's name. This is Logan," so I don't seem like an asshole because I don't remember your name.
Yeah, those are the things that I'm working on now with what
I
I've
also
got.
want to replace your face with Gal Gadot's.
Yeah, and that's why I'm really excited about, and I hate to say this, but the eyeglasses. But I saw the demo that they did for the eyeglasses, and it shows a lot of promise for AR, and that's where my interest is. But yeah, at least in the demo, there was effectively a HUD layover inside the glass itself, and so you could see like the area you're in, and then like it had layovers for things that you could interact with, and so it was interesting. I'll try to find the video, but for all I know, it could just be some kind of movie magic that they threw in there, and so. That was actually part of the discussion thread, was people worrying about how they were overhyping it with CGI, and how if they overhyped it too much, it'll be a letdown when the product actually drops. Which I think was part of the Google Glass experience, is there were higher level expectations than what actually delivered, and I think that was part of the product adaptation issue with aside from getting punched in the face for wearing Google Glasses.
Yeah, my buddy Mick had those. I don't know if he ever developed any particular app with them though. Okay, I think that's at the end of the show notes.
Yeah, we're good.
And we'll go get more people in the chat next week. We will go kidnap Caprico and Israel and hog-tie them and make them be on the cast.
Sounds like a plan. All right, guys, I'm going to head out. You guys have a great one.
I'm going to end the cast. I'm going to bullshit a little bit afterwards, but ending cast now. Everybody check y'all next Wednesday.